honors presents Katarzyna Mikulska, did the Aztecs writing system. We begin by acknowledging with honor and respect the indigenous nations on whose traditional territories the university now stands and whose historical relationships with the land continue to this day. We also acknowledge the elders past and present, including MSU's current Council of the Elders, and humbly ask for their guidance. The Valley of the Flowers has been and remains a place of learning for Native American peoples who for millennia have passed ways of knowing, being, and doing from one generation to the next. While land acknowledgement is not enough, it is an important social justice and decolonial practice that promotes indigenous visibility and a reminder that we are on settled indigenous land. Please note, the Honors Presents lecture series welcomes diverse opinions, beliefs, perspectives, and experiences. Honors Presents encourages all students and viewers to think critically and process the information presented in the lecture series in an open-minded and holistic manner. Now, our speaker tonight, Katarzyna Mikulska, works as an associate professor at the Institute of Iberian and Ibero-American Studies, Faculty of Modern Languages at the University of Warsaw. Her research interests are the theory of writing, Native American and non-European scripts, pre-Hispanic Mesoamerican divinatory codices, the pre-Hispanic religion of Central Mexico, and divinatory systems and practices. Defining. She has extensively worked on deciphering pre-Hispanic divinatory systems and practices in ancient Mexico, and worked with original Mexican manuscripts held in libraries in Europe. Currently, she is working at MSU as a research scholar, and she recently published an academic article written in Spanish with MSU's Gail Brokaw called Homo Alphabeticus, the Definition of Writing and Mesoamerican Writing Systems. Following the conclusion of her talk, Professor Mikulska will have a short Q&A. Now, please join me in welcoming Katarzyna Mikulska.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me well? Yes. So thank you so much for the invitation. It's a honor for me to be at MSU Honors College. And I'm sorry if my English will be not sufficiently polished. I will present the result of my research here at Montana State, and also in collaboration with Gail Brokaw, from whom I stole this title. Both he will talk about Incas, the same title later on. So today I will talk about this region called Mesoamerica. Here are the countries. It was inhabited by the Maya people, as you for sure know, by the Nahua people, by the Maya people, by the Nahua people, by the Mixtec people, and many others. The Nahua are frequently called Aztecs, but also the people who they conquered can be called Aztecs. So I will use the term Aztec in this second sense. Yeah, Aztec Empire. So, who had writing system of Mesoamerican people? The Maya for sure. They had logo-syllabic writing systems similar to cuneiform writing, Chinese writing, and many more. Logo-syllabic writing system basically have logograms or signs for words, and syllabograms, signs for syllables, but also other signs. So they codify units of language. And Maya writing system is like this. It's nicely separated from what we perceive as image. And it was also used in Maya codices or books. Here we can see it here and there. But what happens on the other side of Mesoamerica? Here. So the Nahua people have also these historic codices or books, the Mixtecs as well. They both had these divinatory codices, but to our eyes, these books or codices look rather like images or maybe comics, I don't know. I will focus on them today. But first of all, what a codex is. According to Encyclopedia Britannica definition, is a manuscript book with pages stitched together on one side. So, according to this definition, Mesoamerican codices are not codices because they are screenfolds, as we can see here. And they are really screenfolds, as we can see here. We still use the name codices for them, and their particular names come from the place where they are held today or from one of the previous owners. So Codex Vaticanus B is today in Vatican Library. Codex Borgia was owned by the Cardinal Stefano Borgia, and so on. As for the size, it's difficult to talk about size, so you better have a look, and maybe I will ask Gary to show it to you. Okay. They can be up to 10 yards or meters long. I think we can make them circulate. Yeah, just make them circulate. Yeah. Can we? Yeah. Uh-huh. And in colonial times, the codices were still produced, but they are codices sensu stricto, meaning they are books made on European paper. They are stitched together along one side, and they function as our Rosetta Stones, meaning that we have used them to decipher the meaning of pre-Hispanic codices, partially at least. This is because these codices contain a lot of glosses that explain particular signs, like here and here, or they contain whole commentaries to whole scenes. What was the material of pre-Hispanic codices? Basically, animal skin, most probably deer, and they look like this today. Possibly the covers were frequently made of jaguar skin. So they look like this today. Okay. Here are the connections of different pieces of skin. And the other material was amate paper. It's still made of bark of this tree, and it's elaborated in a similar way as papyrus was. So it's a paper, not bark. It's an important difference. And it looks like this and like this. And what about the themes? I will present the themes of the codices, but I will stop sometimes to explain how this system, writing or not writing, works. Okay? So the first theme the codices are about, or they contain, is history. And it's present in Nahua codices. They tell the story about sacred origins of the Nahua people. And let's see a fragment of this codex in a moment. Codex Boturini. Here is the whole codex, you can see. If we go closer, I managed to move it. Okay. So here the Nahua people live the mythical places of origin. First they navigate through the lake, they walk, they pass by through this place named Curved Mountain, they walk again. These are their leaders. Sometimes they stop somewhere, again their leaders. They stop in some places. These are place names. Normally they are composed of a sign for a hill and of something else. They spend a lot of years in this place. Here we can see calendric signs for particular individual years. So they spend 23 years in this place. Then they go to another place. They spend more years. They go to another place. This is the sign for walk or for movement. Another place, more years, and so on and so forth. Okay? The Nahua codices also tell the story about wars. And let's see this fragment with more detail. Here we also have this calendric signs. Normally, all the dates, all the calendric signs are composed of a number and of a date sign. So here the year is for rabbit, the next year is 5 breed, and so on. Okay? And here we have the ruler, or Tlatoani in Nahuatl, meaning the one who speaks. And this is indicated by this speech, the sign of speech scroll, which means that he is the one who speaks. Here we have his personal name, or glyph of his personal name. It's attached to his person through this line, let's say, and this sign is composed of logograms or signs for words. Okay? So first logogram is A, water. The second one is mask, shayakat. So altogether we read this ashayakat, meaning water mask. Okay? So these signs stands for these two words that compose the whole name. Okay? And this is confirmed by this gloss here, which says ashayakat, or in fact it was the other way around. The scholar used these glosses to decipher these glyphs. Okay? And what did he do? He made a lot of war. Here is the sign for war. It's composed of a shield here, of arrows here, and in this sign encodes the meaning of war, but it does it through metonymic process because these elements, shields and arrows, are instruments for war, so by extension they refer to war. So he conquered, here we have signs for conquest, burning temples, right? A lot of places. And here we have the places, or rather the names. So let's see how they are written. Here we have again a logogram, metu, which is agave, met, tepe, which is hill. So altogether, this is metepek, or hill of agave, one of these conquered places. Here we have another place name. It's also written with a logogram, tlatelolco, pile of earth. Please remember it, okay? So for a lot of researchers, only these elements, only these personal names and these place names represent or are a writing system because they encode units of language. But what happens with all the other parts? Is it writing or not writing? After a successful war, there are tribute and taxes. And this information, this is another term of so-called economic codices. Here and here. And how they work, and how do they work? Normally we have a list of towns from one region. This is the name of the region. These are all place names. Again, written with these logographic signs and syllabic signs. I will explain the other later. And all these cities, all these towns had to pay all these things. And let's look it closer. So they had to pay warrior suits, like this. And here we have a sign that stands for 20. So they had to pay 20 these kind of warrior suits. They also had to pay these codes, and the codes were also at the same time a means of payment. And here, this sign, feeder, stands for 400. Okay, so how many white codes did they have to pay? It's a question. Yeah, 400 or more, because in fact there are more white clothes over there. Okay. Yeah. They had also to pay 400 of these women dresses, and they also had to pay copper axes. How many?
100.
I can't get 5 flags.
Okay.
Flag is for 20 by 5. 20 by 5. 100. 100, yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. So this particular codex called Mendoza I was talking about just now is quite particular because it was done in colonial times for Spanish authorities. So the last part of this codex also contains a so-called daily life section. And it gives us information about Nava customs and things like this. Yeah. So here we have preparations for a marriage. This is the bride. Here we have the marriage. and here a new baby is born. But this is not a normal way how the codices look like. Another popular type of codices is maps. And these maps are normally oriented toward the east. This map represents the region of basin of Mexico where today's city of Mexico is. It looked like this in pre-Hispanic time, or rather like this, and it's also oriented toward the east. So I hope you can see these 5 lakes, the shape of these 5 lakes together. Okay? Here another picture. You can see again the lakes and mountains there, and here we have the mountains. Okay? And so let's see how these codex work, because on the map the history is also registered, but on the map itself. Okay? So let's see it closer. This is the page of this codex. If we go closely here, we can see this place name we already saw earlier, Curved Hill. Here is the ruler of this place. Here is his personal name. And here is his wife behind him. Here is her name. And they are both crying a lot because they have to say, scroll, no to this guy. His name, his personal name is buzzing loose, and he asked for a hand of one of their daughters in marriage, okay? But both daughters, one of them is here and one of them is here, were already promised to other guys, okay? So this one, her name is Old Skirt, was to be married, and in fact married, we go with the footsteps, okay? She was married to this guy, here is his personal name, okay? And the other one, her name is Waterbird, and she's also crying a lot, was married. We go with the footsteps, okay? Here, and here she is. Here she is married with this guy. And in fact, it was a beginning of a big problem because later on, she was the reason of a war between Basintos and this guy. Okay, but it was later. And the story is, of course, much longer. Okay, so here's another part of from this codex. Here we have another ruler. His name is Asking Coyote, and he asked his friend, hey, do you know who sells tortillas over there? And this one says, oh yeah, I know, this lady over there in this city. Okay, so let's go there. They go there, but first of all, they have to find clothes to pay for the tortillas. They have them already, so this friend of Asking Coyote goes with the lady, pays her with the cloak, and she sells him tortillas. Okay? But let's stop here and see how the name of this town is written. In fact, it's 2-part name. One is up, second is down. And this time, the place name is composed of a sign for a pot, for a mouth, and for a house. So, if this sign were logograms, we would read the whole name, something like house of a mouth of a pot, or something like this. But the reading is Kaltenko, from down to up. It's the only writing system in the world that works in this direction, from down to up. But Kaltenko means outdoors, meaning that it has nothing to do with these words. Okay? So what we have here, these signs work according to Rebus principle. We can call it Rebus principle, and of course we know it from our games. Okay, we know that in this thing we don't care about the meaning of these signs. We just care about how they sound. Okay, to be or not to be. Okay, but for us it's a play. But for logosyllabic system, this is a very important writing principle, let's say, or mechanism. So in this case, these signs are syllabograms because they only encode the sound of syllables, okay? And here we have another namesake of name of this place, which is Tlatelolco, Isle of Air, that we already saw earlier. But here is another sign inside, and this is thief, sign for thief. So what's the function of this sign here? We read thief in Nahuatl, and the only function of this sign, which is also a syllabogram, is to indicate that this logogram starts with the syllable clan. Okay? Okay, let's go to Mystec codices, which also relate history. They relate the stories, the sacred origins of royal dynasties. They look like this. The reading order is like this in Bustropedon, and they go on like this. They also have plenty of place names. They are encoded in a very similar way to these Nawa place names, as we saw. Frequently, they are composed of a hill sign and another signs over there. They also have plenty of dates. Again, date is always number and a day sign. Okay, even there. And this particular fragment of this story is a mythical war between Mystec people and so-called Stony people who inhabited the Mystec region in mythical times. And at the beginning, the Stony people are winning. Okay, here we can see like one of these Stony guys take this lady as a captive. This act of taking a prisoner is conventionally represented by pulling somebody's hair. Okay, so the Mystec are losing until the moment then there is some divine intervention from the heavens, and apart from this moment on, the Mystec are winning. Okay, so they sacrifice the Stony people, they take them as captives, okay, and finally they win. Okay, but how can we know that this is a Stony person? Okay, to understand this, we will see again these toponyms of place names. Here we have all of them. So this place name is hill, logogram for the word hill, of stone. Okay, I will focus on this stone sign. It encodes the meaning of stone through both ways. First, through the form, the oval of a stone is the form of the stone is oval with this here. But it also encodes this meaning through this pattern and colors. Okay. If we go here to the second sign, this is hill of stone, of blood, of something else, we can't see this oval shape anymore. But the meaning of stone is converted, is encoded only through the pattern and color, and this pattern and color is inscribed or put inside the form of a hill. Okay? And then the same pattern can be put inside another form, which is the human form in this case. Okay? So in this sense, the combination of the form and pattern and color makes this system generative, meaning that the signs can be combined in order to communicate meaning that are not predicted by the set of individual signs themselves. And of course, we know this such generative system. Our alphabetic system is generative. The set of 24 letters serves for creating an infinite number of words. The set of 10 digits also serves to generate plenty of numbers and other things from algebra. Okay? And now you jump for a moment to divinatory codices, because this idea of this mechanism of these combinatory rules that permit the system to be generative are present in all the codices, all the Aztec codices. So here we have a stream of water. The form for the water is with these things here, okay, with some waves here. And the pattern for water is these black lines here on blue. Okay, and then the same pattern can be inscribed within a form for agave, which is a succulent plant, because agave is full of water as such. Okay? Let's go back to Mr. Historical Codices. I said earlier that they tell the stories of real dynasties, so they are full of people, important people, and of course they have names. They have two kinds of names, calendric names, because it was also a Mesoamerican practice that the people were named after their date of birth. So, like, I don't know, somebody could be named in our culture February 16. For them, the names were a number and a day sign, like here, okay? And in this case, these personal names, these calendric names, are always placed next to human figure, but they are separated, okay? They are not connected. Okay, and here are some other examples, the name for this guy, the name for this lady, the name for this guy. But they also have personal names, and they can be represented next to the human figure, like here. Here is the name of this lady, Bluebird, and here is the name of this warrior, Bleeding Jaguar. But they can also be inscribed or incorporated within the human figure. Like here, the name of this lady is Wreath of Cacao Flowers, and the name of this ruler is Sun and Rain. And this is extremely common practice in Aztec codices. Okay? We can have the personal names placed next to the figure, like here. This is the name Shell Kechkemit. Kechkemit is a kind of feminine cloth, garment, but she has exactly the same elements. Oops, sorry. Here, inscribed within her image at the same time. Okay, this lady, Jaguar Kechkemit with jaguar spots, has her name here next to her figure, but also within her figure here. Okay, so we are accustomed that in our writing system is separated from the image, and even if we put alphabetic letters within an image, it's still separable. Okay, we can separate this, but in this case, we cannot separate these elements from the image of those ladies because it's her garment, their garment at the same time. Okay. Okay, so let's go to divinatory codices with Arnala and Aztec. How did they work? They were based on the calendar of 260 days, and they serve to determine what divine forces influence a particular day or period of time. And they contain auguries for particular days, like here, okay, this day is bad, this one is good, this one is indifferent, and so on. Auguries for birth. The prophecy for the child depends on what goddess or what god is the patron for these calendric signs. Auguries for marriages. Here we have good auguries for constipation for this couple and very bad one for this couple, as you can see. Auguries for travels, for agriculture, and so forth. And here is an example of particular scene from one of these codices. This is to make a prognostication for a period of 13 days, which are called Presena. Here is the patron of this Presena, a goddess. And I hope you can recognize already this sign, which is sign for war, made of shield, arrows, and some other elements, other weapons, because in this signs that work through metonymy, new element from the same series, let's say, can be added. So the sign is enriched, it can be expanded really a lot. And it still communicates or encode war all the time. And you can see also that the goddess is taking a captive. So what would be the prognostication for a child born during one of those days? He would be a very famous warrior, a very good warrior. He would take a lot of captives, or alternatively, he would be taken as a captive. Okay? What if it's a girl who is born here? She will be a warrior as well, and she will have a lot of captives, meaning that she will be a mother and she will have a lot of children. Okay? Because these both elements, taking captives and giving birth, were seen like parallel activities. Okay? So plenty of gods in divinatory codices, and let's see what's going on with them, because they also have names. Here is the god Pescatifoca, or smoking hero, and again, in similar way as in historical codices, the name of this god is inscribed within his image. Smoking hero, here and here. Okay? We know these glyphs or these signs from our economic codices. We can see here the sign of the logogram for smoke here, the logogram for mirror here, and here they are put together to form the sign of smoking mirror. Okay? We saw that in our historical codices, personal names or names of offices were placed next to human figure, separated, let's say. But also we can find these cases where when a name or name of an office is inscribed or incorporated within the image of somebody. So for divinatory codices, these examples can be multiplied. Okay, here we have the god Tonatiuh, literally sun, and here we have the glyph of his name, here and here. And we know this glyph that functions as logogram from a place named from economic codices. Another god, Sintelo, literally maize, has the maize glyph here, and we also know the same glyph, the same sign that works as logogram in the place name. So frequently the system from divinatory codices is compared to European iconography, like in this case. But I think it's quite different. Okay? Here in the representation of the ancient Greek god Helios, we can see the sun element, which is here an iconographic attribute of this god, and serves to recognize this god. The difference is that in the writing system used by this culture, European culture in this case, a sun sign does not form part of a writing system used by this culture. Okay? Between the letters in alphabetic system, there is no sun sign. Okay? And this is the main difference with these signs in Mesoamerican divinatory codices. I would say it's rather more similar to contemporary use of, let's see, this letter W, which here serves as an emblem or symbol of a name for Wonder Woman. It even doesn't, it's a letter, but we don't read it woo. We know it's Wonder Woman. But at the same time, this letter is part of a clause. It cannot be taken out. Okay? So summing up, the Aztec system contain personal and place names, which are, strictly speaking, logosyllabic writing. There is no problem with that. And these signs are separable from what we see as image, and these signs encode units of language. But at the same time, the signs are inscribed within or incorporated within the image itself. And they have the same function. They encode names. Okay? In the image, there is the same set of signs as in this logographic or logosyllabic subsystem. And the system is generative with combinatorial roles, as we have so seen earlier. So, did the Aztec have a writing system? What do you think? It with my question at the end.
I have a question for you.
I can hear you.
I have a question for you. Do any of the divinatory codices, I can't not say it. Yeah. Do they describe any of the rituals or practices they may have engaged in?
Ritual practices?
Yeah.
Divinatory codices didn't serve to describe ritual practices, but we can get to know how the ritual practices were like from these codices.
Okay.
Okay, so they didn't serve for this. There is some parts of divinatory codices which are called protocols for ritual, and until very recently it was called that they serve as a kind of, let's see, recipe how the ritual shall be done. But it was recently a scholar from France, Daniel Dewouf, recently shown that it was wrong. And they are not protocols for ritual. They are really divinatory codices. It's rather this other way of working. But we really can know a lot about rituals from these codices as well. And then in colonial codices, the situation changes because they were made for other aims. And normally the Spaniards let the people, the indigenous people, the Mesoamerican people, produce the codices, all kinds of codices, apart from divinatory codices, because they were so seen as, devil's work. So they prohibited these codices. But then in some moments, they realized that, the Spanish missionaries, that they don't understand anything from the religion and how the evangelization is going on. So they let the people do again these divinatory codices, but they were not divinatory anymore because they didn't serve this purpose. So in this new divinatory or these colonial codices, they are like copies of the previous original divinatory codices, but they also contain images, representations of celebration of agricultural festivities. So it's another type of codices that we can learn something about the rituals.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, did the Aztecs have a writing system? Can you, it's hard to answer it because can you give us a definition of writing? Besides, they're obviously communicating, but what's the difference between communicating and writing?
And what's your definition of writing?
Well, I asked first.
I know. I took my question first.
I know. Can you all help me here? What's the definition of writing?
I should have started with this.
Does it have to have an alphabet?
No, because we have logosyllabic systems, or logoconsonantic systems, or syllabic systems. Alphabet is, signs for sounds. Signs for sound, yeah, for phonemes. Supposedly. I think the question would be, does the writing system have to encode language? What do you think? It's an open question for everybody.
Your presentation seemed to accept that definition because you really emphasized these conventions that do represent language, right? So most of your presentation focused on these place names and these personal names, which you demonstrated are logosyllabic, right?
Yes.
So it seemed to be that you were trying to demonstrate that they did have writing, but the question is it limited to those logosyllabic conventions? Or is the broader system in which these logosyllabic conventions are deployed, as Otto was saying, the codex itself communicates meaning to a lot of other means, not just through these these conventions that represent linguistic units, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So,
Mhm. So the question is, do the system that encode units of language represent or really represent the language? If I write in my alphabetic writing, good morning, I can read it, good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay, so the letters only encode part of the message, it's not all. So this is the first point. There is no system in the world, there is no system in the world, even if it encodes units of language, that encodes at the same time all the information. Okay, it's impossible. We are just very fluent in using our writing system, so we supply all the information that we need. We don't want context. There's plenty of other things, and we supply this information. So I think that this is the first problem. That there's no writing system in the world that encodes all the information from the language. Okay, and then this slide. In fact, it will be my or part of my definition of what writing system is. I think that I would like to say. I would ask you what do you think, because if it's not necessarily the idea of encoding all the units of language, so what's really important in a writing system? Hmm? Yes, communication, maybe not direct, because the idea of writing is to keep the information. I would say it's communication, but over time and space. Okay, so this is to leave the information, the communication for other recipients. Okay, so these systems, okay, okay, we can touch it as done. Yeah. What else? I would say a writing system has a set of signs. The set can be, the question would be if it's a closed set of signs or open. Okay? But the main point is that the signs can be combined in different ways to create, to encode these new meanings. Okay? So there are these internal rules to combine the signs. And I would say that this is like another factor for me extremely important. And this is what we have here. Okay? Of course, I would say that this is an open system. Okay? It's not closed like the alphabet. But even with alphabet, I would discuss if it's so closed. Okay, so it will be another rule for me. What else would you think about? Does it answer your question? Brilliant. You're supposed not to make me difficult questions.
Yeah, I'm just.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
I would just suppose that it isn't the definition of writing in some way kind of just arbitrary in a way, because it's like, it just depends on how you define it, right? As Augustine, how do you define writing? We can choose to define it in different ways. Right? So the traditional definition of writing says that, it's representation of language. Right?
Yes, but this traditional definition of language was made for writing system from Europe. It's not the other way around, okay? And it was forged or coined before the Europeans got to know other systems, okay? And I think that the biggest problem is this, that we have our definition, then we see other system, and it does not function as our definition allows. So we don't treat this as writing, because our definition doesn't permit this. And then we are stuck, because it's either iconography, either our writing system, this is something else, but we cannot study this as writing system because our definitions limits us. So my idea is let's rather see how the system works. And then we see if it's a writing system and if it complies with functions that we expect from a writing system, which is, I would say the first one is to communicate through time and space. And possibly, I would expect to be a complex system, as I said, okay, to distinguish it probably from I don't know, paintings, maybe, okay? So if this system complies with these expectations, so why not expand the definition of writing? Yes?
Did they develop both letters, like we know them, and pictures? Because there's like writing on the pictures. Did they evolve?
Where is writing on the picture?
Like the
Like
letters?
this?
Yeah.
No, these are these colonial glosses. This is alphabetic writing from colonial times, either from the Spaniards themselves, either from their indigenous students.
So how are we able to derive what they sounded like? Because you're like writing out how it sounded. Is that like stuff we made up, or is that what they actually said?
Yeah, again, this is the main question. Do we need to know how they sound? And do we really know what these people did with their books? Did they pronounce, let's say, pronounce or verbalize the content in the same way as we would do with our books? And the answer to this question is that we have no idea. Okay?
But we do know how it sounded, because there are people who speak the same language today.
Yeah.
Even. And there are really detailed descriptions of grammars of that language that we studied. But
And this language is still in use.
yeah. We know how the words sound. We're just not sure whether what they produced when they read these signs, right? But if they read those words that she was saying, we know how those sound.
I think, yeah, the question is, if you see a god like this, what did they do with this image? Did they pronounce all the elements that are here? Because it's not only the smoking mirror elements, there are others, here. So when they looked at this image, did they say all the names of these gods at the same time? Or it was not necessary? Or maybe one? Which one? Okay, this is what we don't know.
Maybe it depends how literate they were, right? I mean, it's like maybe they would say one of the words.
For sure.
not the word.
Yeah, for sure. It depends how literate they were, okay? And also possibly of what was the way, okay? Because it's quite possible that they could make they could make like, let's say, a quick reading of this scene, okay? And to say war in this case. Or maybe if they wanted to make like an elaborated discourse, if they were to do a discourse, maybe they would enumerate all these elements of these signs and maybe add even more, because why not? Okay, all the weapons will convey the same meaning of war, or all the symbols. Okay, so I would say it depends if it would be a narrow reading or extensive reading. Yeah.
So it seems like all of these are kind of color coded. We have certain people who are drawn in yellow, wearing green clothes, others are wearing red clothes. Do we know what the different colors meant and how many different colors they had access to?
You are asking more about how the colors were made, or about the symbolism of color?
More so the symbolism, but I'm interested in both.
Yeah, okay. It's extremely complex, and there is no one meaning for one color.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's like in our culture, in fact. It depends completely on the context, and also on the combination you see my pointer? Yeah? Okay? So until here, this is green. I know that it's impossible to see it because this color evaporated, yeah. But it was green. Then we have this red, and then we have this white ones, okay? So altogether, a round sign with these stripes, let's say, is a sign for jade, okay? Green jewel, okay? And the green jewel is inscribed within the form for a sun, okay? So, yeah, and here are the solar rays, and the yellow color in this case is the color of clear sky, okay? So, so at the same time, we see that the conceptualization of sun was a precious jewel, okay, on the sky. Okay, and we can go forward with this. Does it answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So I guess with how long the codices that you showed us are, even the 20-meter ones or whatever, it seems to me like they'd be relatively short stories. Ultimately, I mean, it doesn't seem like these are like really long, complex narratives that are being told with these, with this, what we're going to call it, pictographic system. So I'm wondering, is there any evidence, or I'm not even sure if this matters, this might be kind of at the root of your question, is there any evidence that the writers or the artists that constructed these codices, that they made any deliberate attempts at like syntax or anything? Like, is there anything that would indicate if you were to, I'm not sure what the right terminology is, transliterate it into, or to read aloud, quote unquote, the stories? Is there any evidence of like actual deliberate structure in terms of language, or is reading it just conveying the meaning and there's no other perhaps artistic elements to the writing?
Mm-hmm. So these are not short stories. These are short fragments that I show.
Okay.
Okay, but sometimes these codices, the three that I show, they all cover, I think, maybe like 200 years. Okay, so these are really long stories. Okay, and there are many stories inside, and also side stories inside. But as I was saying, we don't have any, unfortunately, until now, we don't have any, any document from colonial times when somebody would write in our alphabetic writing what an ingenious specialist would say when having this codex in front of him or her. Okay, we don't have this. But still, I think that the memory, I mean, there's so much information, and the social memory is so rich inside. And then these indigenous people were able, specialists were able to tell the interesting Spaniards, basically Spanish missionaries, about the history. That we know that they recorded their stories in these books. Yeah? Have I answered it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like Nahuatl and Aztec, which is like Punsabi, are like both of my first languages. Like that's what we speak at home.
Wow.
My mom is from Oaxaca.
Wow.
Yeah. So like this is something we always struggle with, is like trying to find like a written language that everyone could share, right? Because there's like Nahuatl speakers in all over Mexico, right? In like various different states.
Uh-huh.
And it was definitely something very frustrating. Was like we had no like clear way to like write to each other or communicate. But I think, okay, I used to think that Aztec and like Aztec culture didn't have any written language. But like thinking about it now, like the way we kind of communicate still, like when you go down to Mexico and like you're being told all these stories by like elders and stuff in the villages, they'll draw like very similar things to this, right? And then they know how to tell the stories, like right? They say oral traditions, and even then, like I can talk to someone from like, I don't know, northern Mexico that speaks Nahuatl, or someone from California that I've like never met before, all struggling with nowadays is like there is no clear way to communicate with each other, like writing, which is, it can kind of hard like to, yeah, I don't know, just like the lack of a writing system is kind of difficult that way, but like these things we're still able to communicate, like, and we still are able to tell oral traditions like hundreds of years or thousands of years later, which I think is really cool. So I don't know, I guess we do have kind of a writing system. Yeah. Also, your pronunciation for like Nahuatl words are really good. I was really impressed.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that this is another important issue about these codices because the one I was talking about, okay, they are made in this region which is so many languages further, okay. So I think they communicate across languages until certain point, for sure, okay, because the message could be recovered. Maybe some particular personal name, which is also a certain question, would not be recovered in the same way, okay? But still, the main idea or the main story was easily read, okay, recovered from this. Yeah.
So, were they all like historical or like religious documents, or were there any like fictional stories? Or would you be
Like what, fictional?
Yeah.
Not in the sense we use this word. Then it depends on your belief. Because we have these mythical stories, which are sacred stories. Okay, I wouldn't call them fictional. Okay, but somebody from outside, or somebody from outside, it would be mythical, I guess, fictional, I guess. Or something happens in this. Okay, never mind. It's squeezed. The other way, but there's another case, because fictional stories, I guess you think like about fantasy novels or things like this, yeah. No. But in colonial times, as I said, they still produce codices, and a lot of them were to show that some family is a legitimate owner of some land, let's say. And in some cases, these codices were fabricated. I mean, they were not, there was a whole workshop in the 18th century that specialized in producing false codices that were supposed to be like from before the conquest. Okay, fictional, I don't know. Other question?
Well, if there's no more Aztecs, but thank you so much for all coming here.